Hey, how's it going, guys? So, this is going to be a brief tutorial video on using Claude to map out project roadmaps. If you don't know who I am, I'm Rob Quinn. I run a software consulting company called Build More Tech, um, doing ad hoc projects with Python, a lot of data cleaning, web app development. But so this was something I used ChatGPT for a while ago. I think it was back March 2023, I was toying around with making a web app that would essentially analyze Amazon customer reviews. And what it would do is it would go through, like 10,000 of them. I would start to pull out the most common features, things like that. And then say like, hey, these are boxing gloves. Here's like the top five things people say about your boxing gloves, like, too tight, or they fit great, or they like the color, whatever. But that project ended up being a little more involved than I thought, because originally my thinking was, all right, just pass this information into Chat GPT. But then as I started looking at dealing with the hallucinations, I'm thinking, all right, there's got to be more to it than this. But I was a software engineer, so I didn't have the background to be able to figure out, like, all right, what are the steps in between analyzing a customer review and then actually, like, it's called feature engineering, extracting out like standardized comments, standardized, so like things about like the fit, is it good or bad, the smell, is it good or bad, like common characteristics of a particular product, and the sentiment around them, was it good or bad. And what I did at the time is I used ChatGPT to figure that out. Um, but I wanted to go through a quick demo of how to do that in Claude. Now, mind you, I'm winging it in this video because I wanted to make this as real as possible. So one thing that I'm doing right now is, so we've got VS Code open, have this invoice. So one common project that I've dealt with before is extracting uh, data from image files, from PDFs. Uh, so the thing about stuff like this, it's really easy for a human to interpret this. But if, for example, I wanted to have Python, say I had 10,000 of these, and they didn't all fit this exact format. Um, how am I going to get the total out? How am I going to get the sales tax out? How am I going to get the invoice number? All this information, because you have to deal with the fact that it could be all over the place. Like, it can be, sometimes the total might be here, sometimes down there, sometimes up here, sometimes it might go by different names, sometimes it might just be total, sometimes total dollars, sometimes it might be total pound, it could be denominated in another currency. So you have all these little considerations where it's like, you want to get this standardized information from non-standardized data in the form of these PDFs. So I'm going to have Claude walk us through it. Now, mind you, if you're going to try stuff like this, like, even though I only have so much experience doing this particular type of work, meaning analyzing invoices, I have years of experience with software engineering, some machine learning experience, so I'm somewhat familiar with this. If you're going to take on a very new project, say something like setting up permissions in the cloud, dealing with security, like an entirely new domain, you definitely want to proceed with caution, because there are a lot of things that you do not know that you do not know, and the downsides could be brutal. In this case, we're just extracting data. So I'm going to tell Claude what we're up to. So I have a PDF invoice. So we want actually, because I'm trying to come up with a roadmap rather than get this one specifically. Let's see, I'm going to delete this. Invoice date, invoice number. Cool. So far, I've just outlined the problem that I'm experiencing. So I've got these varied PDFs. The information is scattered all over the place. The names are inconsistent because I'm getting these from different companies. I gave it a sense of what I want, but I want to be more specific and just saying, like, look, I want I want you to give me a high level overview. And since I'm a Python developer, I'm going to tell it to do it in Python. So OCR is optical character recognition. It's basically a way. So if you're ever dealing with a file where it's basically it's a photo, but you can see letters, but you can't copy and paste them, it'll translate that image into text. It's useful in certain cases, but it doesn't do a great job of preserving relationships. So, for example, I'm going to open this back up. So if we just OCR'd this entire thing, like the relationships, like this bill to, like the text output wouldn't preserve this well, because we can tell just by the positioning that all this is related, all this is related, all this is related. These are related. If this is just a text file, I'm going to pause this for just a second. Actually, so Mac will let us do that. So I'm going to just copy all this, delete it. So you can see, like, this is the kind of stuff that happens. Like, this gets transformed into this. So if we now we can't really tell, like, wait a minute, what is going on? Like, what is this 1, 2, 3? Like, what is occurring? But if we could basically identify this as individual objects and relate everything to each other, and then do OCR on those different pieces, then it'd be useful. But let's see whether or not whether the file is an image file requires OCR. Cool. Let's see what it says. Oh, cool. So I'm going to go through some of what I'm familiar with in here. So PyTesseract. The Tesseract is a Google product that does OCR. So basically, what we just saw with my Mac when I took the screenshot and I was able to extract text, it does that. PDF to image. Oh, okay. This is a package that'll just read a PDF file. So if we give it if we just say, for example, if this had been a PDF instead, we could just read invoice dash template blah blah blah, and then that'll let us pass in the Python. CV2, that's the computer vision 2 package. I haven't used that one extensively, so I can't speak to that. NumPy, just one of the Python's data analysis libraries. So transformers. So this refers to the Hugging Face library. If you're unfamiliar with Hugging Face, they're basically trying to be the GitHub of machine learning models. So you can get a lot of models like Llama 3, some of OpenAI's models, etc. on here. They have related services, like you can they'll host some of these models for you, so that you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, the machine learning operations, as it's been dubbed. You just pick the model and you choose what data you're going to send to it. So it's phenomenal. But they'll also give you access to a lot of models for you to run locally. RE is just regular expressions, super useful, just for abstracting things out of text. Fuzzy Wuzzy, I'm going to look it up right now because I have no idea what it is. Let's see. Released. Wow. So it's using an old package. I'm not a fan of doing that. Ask. So let's see what it says. Rapid fuzz. Oh, excellent. All right, so this one's 3 weeks old, so good enough for me. The other thing I'm going to check for security reasons, I am paranoid about all things security. Okay, so 2.6K stars is probably fine. This is not to say that people don't fake GitHub repos and fake credentials, like saying, get a bunch of bot accounts to do this, but probably not. All right, so I'm just going to run this. I'm going to pause it real quick while I download everything. Yeah, because if you're unfamiliar, like everything in here is just basically going to be, I think this one I already have installed. Yep. Pip. Yeah, so it's just going to be a bunch of that. Oh, they left out the named entity recognition. Okay. I'm going to pause this video for a second. Let's see. Okay. So all the packages are installed, but as I'm running this in VS Code, and if you're not using VS Code, it's phenomenal, makes things a lot easier. So you can see in here that there are things like they don't actually extract the fields. It's fine. Nothing for the validate data. Let's see. So these are the little things that'll come along with Claude, but admittedly, this is a really involved workflow that we're coming up with, like something that will generally extract data from PDF/image files, like where we're checking, like, is it an image file? And like we have to worry about the fact that the data could be in a different position in all these different files, that the names are inconsistent. This is a complex workflow, but it's given us something useful. And the other part is, even though it's given us the code over here, like we still want to actually look at what this is explaining to us. Let's see, high level. Let's see, and thank you for bearing with me on this. We're up 17 minutes. So, like I said, this is a free-form video. For all I know, this could be done in 5 minutes. It could take 3 hours. I have no idea. I wanted to show you what a live demonstration of this looks like, so you can get a sense for what it'd be like doing this stuff on your own. Certainly be happy to map out the full extraction PDF. Here's the high-level overview of how you see of your PDF invoices. Your high-level overview of how you could create this pipeline in Python. Let's see. All right, PDF conversion and OCR. Yeah. So the nice thing is that it will explain this. And the other part that is fantastic is you can, like, one of the best use cases for machine learning right now is the learning aspect, especially with something like code. Code is nice because, I mean, a lot of these models, I think, more or less started off as autocomplete. So they were already, programming was already in line with how the logic of this stuff had started. Like that, the autocomplete's been around for a long time. But the nice part about code is that it follows a more closed sequence, I'll call it, meaning that, like, as functions have like right and wrong answers to an extent. I mean, just obviously, like, there's more than one way to get the same end with code, but there is kind of right answers. Like if your function is something along the lines of read CSV, find email column, extract all emails that are valid, like there's a right answer to something like that. Whereas like something as if like just find the most beautiful flower, you could argue there's an objective answer, but it's far more complex. So the nice thing about code is that it's kind of it's logically structured and lends itself to right answers. So it's very good at this. And what you can do is you can say, hey, generate this. I want this code to do this. It generates it, and then you ask it to explain the code individually, and you can ask questions. And even if you're not that good at code, you can still like say, like, wait a minute, it's like this seems like it's off. Can you explain this to me more thoroughly? And you can learn it better. And it's really nice when you're trying to piece together a bunch of tools, because one of the most intimidating parts about software development is you have to know a lot of skills simultaneously. And if you're weak in one of if you're just weak in one of them and you're good at everything else, you might not realize that oh, it's this one skill that you're weak in that's holding you back, and not one of the other like 6 skills that you're strong in. So there's all these like little things to be aware of. Getting off track. So what I'm going to have it do now is, because it's got this map of how this pipeline is going to work, I'm going to say, can you update? Actually, I don't even need to include the whole thing. You update the extract field. Not to include the NER logic. I am attaching a sample PDF file or sample invoice file for you to analyze. All right, so I'm going to click this. Okay, cool. So I added this. Let's see what happens. Dun, 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 dun. Cool. All right, so standardized fields. Yeah, and in the event that you are doing something along the lines of, you know, how the original function, I'm going to go up here. Not this one. The one before it. In the event that you're updating a file that has a lot of information, and you only want to update one function at a time, you can tell it specifically, like, just update this function, leave everything else alone. That way it's less confusing as you're going through this. Because if we only, like in this case, I only wanted this one updated, then like we don't need the whole file to be respit out. Then it makes it harder to go back and like figure this out, because this is an audit log of sorts. All right, so going back into this. All right, so we have extract fields, we have extract invoice data, though I think the extract invoice data might be identical. So I'm gonna look at this. Yeah, that's basically the same. So I'm gonna ignore that. All right, so cool. Okay, so next we are going to have, let's see. Oh, and the other thing that's nice is that beyond generating the code, it'll give you the explanations of what's going on. Now, mind you, you still want to like you want to vet this, like, so as you're moving from stage to stage, you want to make sure that you're like manually checking everything that's going on, because it can introduce errors and you have to call it out sometimes, but it's overall quite good. Kind of the way that I think about this is it's like you're dealing with one of the world's most widely studied junior/mid developers, where it can generate a lot of code and a lot of usable code, but it'll have silly little errors in it that you need to correct. So let's see. But in this case, we can't do that yet because we don't have an output. So I'm going. Actually, yes, we do. Validate data. Cool. At this point, we only care about this. So comment this code out, and let's see. Actually, I'm going to pause and fix this. Okay. So one of the things we're to deal with is updating this. So I'm going to ask it to please update the logic in this function. Probably do this myself, but I'm in a hurry, so I'm not going to do that. Please update the logic in this function so that if the file is not a PDF, then just read it. Then so in this case, I'm just going to ignore the PDF logic for now, because this. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's see what it does now. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. All right, let's see. Does this work now? See, is image defined? Where are right? One more library to install. This is if you're doing anything with Tesseract and with a lot of these images, you're going to want to look at this Python PILs, like the Python image library. Let's see. So we're going to take a look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, and of course it has to install this. I'm going to pause while it runs this because it could take a few minutes. Okay, cool. All right, so it finished, and now we've got this pipeline error, and the reason for that is that this is a Hugging Face function. It's one of their ways to really simplify some code, where it says call on a model, pass data to it, do this. I'm going to gloss over a lot in this, as you guys will probably notice. And the reason for that is because there is a lot that I can talk about. While I'd be fine if this takes an hour or two, I want to be able to sleep. I'm not going to record a full Udemy course and have a 15, 30-hour video. But I can at least figure this part out. Hold on. Oh yeah, I was trying to remember how to call this, but I'm just going to use this. How do I call from the Transformers library? Okay, so we can just port it like that. So, excellent. I like when things are simple. I'm going to try running this again. Name validated data. Do you mean blah blah? Ah, cool. All right. So now I'm just going to change it to this. See what happens. All these little bugs just don't stop accumulating. All right, let's see what kind of output we're getting. Let's see, output, print, output. Cool. So far nothing interesting. I'm going to figure out why. Let's look at this. So, let's see. I'm going to try printing this here, see what happens. Pause this real quick. All right, cool. Just doing some lazy debugging right now. So I've got this print statement up here in the extract invoice text, and we can see, all right, we have this unstructured text here. So we know that the issue is coming about in this extract fields. All right. So we have cardinal, invoice number. Let's take a look at what's going on in this. I'm just going to print the entities that are going on in here. We're going to get a sense for what kind of information we're getting. Entity group, organization, LOC, LOC. Yep, so yeah, so you can see some of this stuff is just too specific. Jean-Baptiste Roberta NER large. Yeah, so in situations like this, the cop-out is we can always just ask Claude using LangChain. I'm going to do just that. Okay, so I paused the video for, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 minutes. So I added in LangChain so that I can call Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It's kind of like cheating at this point, but this is to try to keep this call on, or this video under, an hour if I can help it. But what this will let us do is, so you can see here, can extract the data. So I'm going to go to, where's that? Extract the invoice data doing this. So what I have it do is I want it to constantly return a JSON response, and I'm going to ask Claude how to do that. A large language model to format text data. Yeah, so this, I only want the JSON response, nothing else is important, because for some reason, a lot of time it'll say, here's your JSON response, and it'll return that even though it's not what you want. Say, I have an existing prompt. Please modify it to fit my needs. All right, so let's see how it does with this. I'm gonna pause real quick. Okay, cool. So we applied that prompt logic here. So we have extract the following invoice data, blah, blah, blah. And we see here, it looked, yeah, so we've got the JSON object we wanted. I still have to validate the, let's check and see how right this is or isn't. Not looking at env. So we have invoice date. What's the date here? 11/02/2019. Cool. So that works. Invoice number US 001. Yep. Total amount 15406. Yep. Let's see where. So we have sender East Repair Inc. Bill to and John Smith. So it's actually quite good. Now, one of the problems with how this is set up is that we have just passed the text along to it, and somehow Claude was smart enough to infer that. If this had been a messier invoice, or if like this information had been spread out further, there's no guarantee that the information we want is like retains these relationships. So you have to be careful with that. But that is it for the sake of this one. Yeah, this was not meant to be a full tutorial on how to extract on how to extract text from an invoice, because like this could be this easily can be a longer project when you consider the fact that you have to account for object position, the standardizing the named entity, the name, or standardizing the fields, the named entity recognition, all kinds of stuff. Like this is a much more involved project, but this was just an example of like how I've used Claude in the past to actually map out some of these projects, how to implement them, how to like make quick fixes. Like it takes longer than the 35 minutes that I put into this video. But it, like, beyond actually mapping out the code and actually writing it the way that it has, like, it is really useful for saying, hey, like, you need to have these stages, because the point that I was trying to make is that if you are new to a field, like, it might be, you might say, hey, can you pull this information out and put it in an Excel file, and it'll say, well, if you want to do it that way, you're going to have to account for, like, is this an image file, is it text file, like, you're going to have to account for the object detections, preserve the relations among meaningful information, like this bill to, ship to, the invoice number, invoice date, the variation across different fields. You're going to want to, if there was more companies, like standardizing the names. So it could be like description, or like some might be desk, like DESC. So there's a lot of little things to consider, and then there's also like testing, then validating the model at the end to say, like, okay, you have like your user defined input and output data, like, meaning you have a set of data that says, okay, we've manually like mapped all this stuff out, and we know that these answers are right. Let's see what happens when we actually use our model to evaluate this, and we say, okay, well, it's right 99% of the time. That's good enough for us. But that will vary depending on the project you're in. Like, if, for example, if you were about to get on an airline, they said, hey, it's 99% chance we'll get there. You're not getting on that plane. No one's taking the 1% risk that they're not making it to the other side. Well, not everyone, but you get the point. So yeah, I'll try to add some timestamps to make this easier to break down. If you made it this far, you are a champion, and I appreciate you. Please let me know if there's other more interesting things you'd like to learn about this. This was not a planned out video. This was me. This was an idea I had in the back of my head, thinking, okay, let's show in real scenario what it would look like trying to use Claude to map out a new project, and then start to implement it. So hope you got something out of this. Cheers. I'll add the code in the description. Take care, everybody.